Well, by looking at the news clippings, by now you would have guessed today's topic. Namaste friends, myself Prakash Sharma. I am happy to share with you another episode of Pahal. Today we'll understand about India-China trade relationship, the huge trade deficit and the critical dependency on China with detailed analysis of the active pharmaceutical ingredient sector. This video is a bit longer as there are many important aspects to be covered, so please watch till the end. I will take you through the background of India-China trade relationship, basics of the pharma and API industry, dependency on China for API, implications of the dependency, measures to reduce imports and increase domestic production, progress made till now, current status and the future outlook. Some figures related to India's foreign trade with emphasis on China. As per the press release by PIB, total exports, merchandise and services during FY 24-25 were USD 821 billion against USD 778 billion in FY 23-24. Total imports during FY 24-25 were USD 915 billion compared with USD 857 billion during FY 23-24. Consequently, the trade deficit increased to USD 94 billion. The top 5 export destinations in terms of positive growth were USA, UK, Japan, UAE and France. At the same time, top 5 sources of imports in terms of growth were UAE, China, Thailand, USA and Russia. As per monthly bulletin on foreign trade statistics for April 24 published by DGFT, India's merchandise exports during April 23 to March 24 as compared to April 22 to March 23 declined by 3.09%. India's merchandise imports during April to March 23-24 as compared to April to March 22-23 declined by 5.41%. Out of the top 10 countries, only imports from China, Russia and Switzerland have increased. Petroleum, crude, gold, petroleum products, electronics components and coal are the top 5 imports. Based on the data for the period April 24 to September 4, China was the number 1 source for India's imports with a share of around 16%. Russia was at second place with a little over 9% and UAE was the third largest with a share of around 9%. During the 6-month period, imports from China increased by nearly 12%. As against the overall trend in foreign trade, India's overall exports to China decreased by 28% during 22-23. Over the year 21-22, during April to March 23-24, exports to China recorded a rise of 8.84% over the period April to March 22-23. However, during FY 24-25, there was a decline of around 15%. India's overall imports from China increased by 4.16% during 22-23 over 21-22 during April to March 23-24. Imports from China recorded a marginal rise of 3.29% over April to March 22-23. During 24-25, there was a big growth of around 12%. The trade deficit with China has almost reached USD 100 billion. Yes, that's right. Just to give you an idea about the dependency on China, let us look at the top 3 sources of imports for the top 10 commodities during FY 23-24. For 4 commodities, that is electronics components, telecom instruments, plastic raw materials and industrial machinery, China is the number 1 source. For 3 commodities, China, Hong Kong are the number 2 suppliers. Similar trend has continued during the period April 24 to September 24. Also, there was a big increase in imports in most of the product categories. This was not the case 20 years back. In the years 2004 and 2005, India had a trade surplus with China. However, in the last 20 years, the scenario has completely changed, that is reversed. Now let us learn some basic concepts about the API industry. An active pharmaceutical ingredient is the component of a drug that produces the intended therapeutic effect, meaning it's the biologically active part of the medicine that directly impacts the body to diagnose, cure, treat or prevent a disease. APIs are the most crucial components of finished drug product like tablets, capsules, creams or injections. APIs are frequently created through complex chemical processes involving multiple steps and various raw materials or intermediates. Raw materials for active pharmaceutical ingredients manufacturing can be broadly categorized into chemical compounds, biological substances, and plant-based extracts. These materials, also known as key starting materials, are crucial for the synthesis of APIs and can include chemical intermediates, biological substrates, solvents, catalysts, stabilizers and excipients. In pharmaceuticals, a key starting material KSM is a critical raw material with a defined chemical structure and properties that is directly incorporated as a significant structural fragment into an API. KSMs serve as the initial foundational building blocks in a drug synthesis process and their quality, purity and consistency are essential for the final API's effectiveness, safety and regulatory compliances. The quality of the KSMs directly impacts the quality of the final API, influencing the effectiveness and safety. Drug intermediates are chemical compounds that serve as precursors or molecular building blocks during API synthesis. They are produced in controlled multi-step processes with each step transforming the material into the next intermediate. They allow for the breakdown of complex synthesis pathways into manageable steps, leading to the creation of specific AIs. Intermediates are distinct from the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which is the final therapeutic compound. High quality intermediates are vital because they ensure the final product's purity, efficacy, and safety, influencing stability and bioavailability. Pharmaceutical companies use intermediates in research and development and to manufacture a wide array of medicines from antibiotics to antivirals. The pharmaceutical industry in India. The pharmaceutical industry in India was valued at an estimated USD 50 billion and expected to grow to USD 130 billion by 2030. The country is home to more than 3,000 pharma companies with a strong network of over 10,500 manufacturing facilities. India has more than 2,000 WHO GMP approved pharma plants. India is the world's largest supplier of generic medicines by volume, with a share of around 20% of total global pharmaceutical exports. India also produces over 50% of all vaccines manufactured in the world. This sector supplies around 40% and 25% of generic medicines demand in US and UK respectively. India produces around 60,000 generic drugs across 60 therapeutic categories and supplies over 500 APIs. Ankleshwar, Baddi, Goa, Hyderabad, Navi Mumbai, Mumbai, Sikkim, and Vapi are some of the major pharmaceutical hubs in India. Next comes the API or drug industry in India. Currently, API segment contributes about 1/4 to the Indian pharmaceutical market, and the rest is contributed by formulations. The API industry in India is highly fragmented with about 1,500 units from 1970s up to about 2000. Public sector undertakings like Hindustan Antibiotics, IDPL, and others supported ably by the public funded CSI laboratories were able to service a significant part of domestic requirement of APIs. Afterwards, over a period of time, India had given up manufacturing APIs for ascorbic acid, aspartame, antibiotics, and even steroids. Production of intermediates such as atorvastatin, immunosuppressants, etc. has also been stopped in India. In the early 90s, India was among the leading producers in API category. However, over a period of time, due to many changes in the manufacturing policies and regulations, and with decreasing margins and stringent environmental norms, the Indian pharmaceutical manufacturers cornered themselves from the API manufacturing, and it resulted in the closure of many pharmaceutical companies. API imports. During the same period, China strengthened itself in the API sector. Today, India, which was among the leading manufacturers in the API once upon a time, now imports more than 70% of the API intermediates from China, and this is truly a matter of great concern. India imports from China as it's a cheaper option than manufacturing them domestically. India is currently heavily dependent for as much as 58 APIs on China, while the dependency rate on these APIs varies from 50% to 100%. The major group of products, either as active ingredient or intermediate chemicals that are imported, are antibiotics, steroids, vitamins, statins, enzymes, and other fermentation based intermediates and APIs. Concerns related to API imports. Over the last decade, owing to unattractive business prospects and lower return on investment for key KSMs and APIs, the investments in these segments were weak. Simultaneously, on account of the availability of the said raw materials at lower prices from China, the Indian pharma players have relied heavily on its import of bulk drugs from China. 50% of the critical APIs are being imported and almost the imports are from China. Dependence on China for APIs has been an ongoing concern for the industry, and the outbreak of coronavirus COVID-19 in China was an eye-opener. Following this, the border clashes in 2020 raised alarm bells. These two events have shown the vulnerability of Indian pharma industry due to a disproportionate dependence on China for essential APIs. The PwC report in February 2020 release says the percentage of API imports from China has spiked from around 1% in 1991 to 70% in 2019, and in recent past the actual market price of some of the APIs which are imported from China has gone up steeply. In current context, if the situation aggravates, it can potentially lead to price volatility, impact on export for most pharma companies, ultimately making essential medicines unaffordable and inaccessible to people. Analysis based on 68 critical APIs captured from 19 leading pharmaceutical companies shows that domestically produced APIs cover approximately 50% of the total quantity. Our key starting material KSM for most APIs are still sourced from China. The Chinese API industry has an inherent advantage because of economies of scale and the support from Chinese government in form of financial incentives, infrastructure, and regulatory policies. Lower capex requirements due to large-scale special economic zones 10 to 15x of the Indian SEZs. Lower borrowing costs around 5 to 7% versus 11 to 14% in India. Lower logistics cost 1% of total cost in China versus 3% for India. Lower conversion costs such as labor and electricity costs in China are relatively cheaper. Indian API manufacturers lost competitive edge to manufacture lower end of the spectrum for APIs and fermentation technology to countries like China, majorly on account of factors like stricter implementation of pollution control norms leading to higher cost of manufacturing. No financial incentives like lower tax, cheaper utilities and labor, land supply, subsidy to lower capex requirement and lack of large-scale megaparks to manufacture bulk drugs. Major impediments and concerns. Raw materials for most of the API intermediates are currently not produced in India. Most of the API synthesis involves use of solvents. India imports about $2 billion worth solvents, of which more than 60% comes from China. Again, API synthesis requires chemicals. India currently depends on China also for these chemicals. Some other factors are scale of manufacturing, over dependence on imports, availability and cost of land, high physical infrastructure costs, inadequate financial support, and low profit margins. India does not have major strength in fermentation processes to manufacture key intermediates, KSMs for steroidal APIs, and China is dominating the world. In this prevailing scenario, some initiatives were taken to address the situation. Most important of them was the production linked incentive scheme. Notification of PLI scheme for API was issued by the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers on 21st July 2020. The major points of this scheme are: drugs play a major role in healthcare delivery in the country. Continuous supply of drugs is necessary to ensure delivery of affordable healthcare to the people. Any disruption in supply of drugs can have significant adverse impact on drug security of the country. Indian pharmaceutical industry is the third largest in the world by volume and 14th largest in terms of value. India contributes 3.5% of total drugs and medicines exported globally. However, despite these achievements, India is significantly dependent on import of some of the basic raw materials, namely bulk drugs that are used to produce the finished dosage formulations. India imports bulk drugs largely for economic considerations. Bulk drugs accounted for 63% of the total pharmaceutical imports in the country during FY 2018-19. A committee on drug security constituted by the Department of Pharmaceuticals collated the details of APIs imported in the country and identified 53 APIs for which the country is heavily dependent on imports. A list of such APIs is given in Annexure A. Drug security of the country is dependent upon your ability to ensure uninterrupted supply of quality bulk drugs and also our capacity to upscale their manufacturing to meet emergency situations. Self-reliance in manufacturing of drugs is therefore highly desirable. With a view to attain self-reliance and reduce import dependence in critical APIs, a scheme called Production Linked Incentive Scheme for promotion of domestic manufacturing of critical key starting materials, drug intermediates and active pharmaceutical ingredients APIs in India has been approved by the Government of India on 20th March 2020. Objectives: the scheme intends to boost domestic manufacturing of identified KSMs, drug intermediates and APIs by attracting large investments in the sector and thereby reduce India's import dependence in critical APIs. Scope: under the scheme, financial incentives shall be given based on sales made by selected manufacturers for 41 products. These 41 products, which cover all the identified 53 APIs, are listed in Annexure B. Quantum incentives: financial incentives under the scheme shall be provided on sales of 41 identified products for 6 years at the rates given in the notification. For fermentation based products, incentive for FY 23-24 to 26-27 would be 20%, incentive for 27-28 would be 15%, and incentives for 28-29 will be 5%. For chemical synthesis based products, incentives for 22-23 to 27-28 would be 10%. Target segments: 4 target segments covering 41 products are listed in Annexure B. Applicability: this scheme is applicable only for greenfield projects. Eligibility: support under the scheme shall be provided only to manufacturers of critical KSMs, DIs and APIs registered in India. Tenure of the scheme: the tenure of the scheme is from FY 2021 to FY 29-30. Application window: the application window for receiving the application shall be 120 days. Base year: financial year 2019-20. Financial outlay: total financial outlay of the scheme is rupees 6,940 crores. Annexure A provides the name of the products like amoxicillin, ciprofloxacin, losartan, estolate, ofloxacin, paracetamol, omidazole, vitamin B1, vitamin B6, aspirin, etc. Annexure B of the notification provides the target segments like number 1, fermentation based KSMs, drug intermediates like penicillin; number 2, fermentation based niche KSMs, drug intermediates APIs like neomycin, gentamicin; number 3, key chemical synthesis based KSMs, drug intermediates like para-aminophenol; then other chemical synthesis based KSMs, drug intermediates, KPIs like meropenem, atorvastatin, valsartan, losartan, aspirin, diclofenac sodium, vitamin B6, and levodopa. Annexure C of the notification provides the eligibility threshold criteria for different segments. Same time, notification scheme for promotion of bulk drug packs was issued. While answering question number 278 in the Lok Sabha on 15 September 2020, import of APIs, the top 10 APIs imports are lactulose solution, potassium, calvulinate, mannitol, vitamin C, ibuprofen, and paracetamol. Notification of production linked incentive scheme for pharmaceuticals was issued on 3rd March 2021. Along with this PLI schemes came another scheme for the pharma industry, that was scheme for strengthening of pharmaceutical industry, SPI. Pharmaceuticals means medicines and substances intended to be used for or in the treatment of diseases of human beings or animals, and includes such components as defined in subsection B of section 3 of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. Objective of this scheme to strengthen the existing infrastructure facilities in order to make India a global leader in pharma sector by providing financial assistance to pharma clusters for creation of common facilities to improve the quality and ensure the sustainable growth of cluster. To upgrade the production facilities of SMEs and MSMEs to meet national and international regulatory standards by providing interest subvention or capital subsidy on their capital loans, which will facilitate the growth in volume as well as in quantity, and to promote knowledge and awareness in and about the pharmaceutical and medicinal devices industry by taking up studies, building databases, and bringing industry leaders, academia, and policymakers together to share their knowledge and experience for overall development of pharma and medical devices industry. Components of this scheme. The scheme shall have three components or sub-schemes. First, assistance to pharmaceutical industry for common facilities to strengthen the existing pharmaceutical clusters capacity for their sustained growth by creating common facilities. Financial outlay of rupees 178 crores. Pharmaceutical technology upgradation assistance scheme to facilitate micro, small, and medium pharma enterprises of proven track record to meet national and international regulatory standards. Financial outlay of rupees 300 was provided. Pharmaceutical and medical devices promotion and development scheme to facilitate growth of development of pharmaceutical and medical devices sectors through studies, survey reports, awareness programs, creation of databases, and promotion of industry. Financial outlay of rupees 21.5 crore was provided. Total financial outlay for this scheme was 500 crore rupees. While answering question number 4975 in Lok Sabha on 31st March 2023, PLI scheme for pharmaceutical sector, the PLI scheme for promotion of domestic manufacturing of critical key starting materials, drug intermediates, and APIs in India, with a financial outlay of rupees 6940 crores and the tenure from FY 2021 to FY 2930, provides for the financial incentive for 41 identified products. A total of 51 applications has been selected under the scheme. Out of these, 22 projects have already been commissioned with the installed capacity of 34,255 metric ton. PLI scheme for pharmaceuticals with a financial outlay of rupees 15,000 crore and the tenure from FY 2021 to FY 2029 provides for financial incentive to 55 selected applicants for manufacturing of identified products under these categories for a period of 6 years. This scheme also covers the APIs other than those covered under the PLI scheme under bulk drugs as mentioned at point 1. Projects have been commissioned in 261 manufacturing locations out of total 309 manufacturing locations. Under the scheme for promotion of bulk drug parks, proposal of Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh have been approved for financial support to facilitate setting up of 3 bulk drug parks in the country. The total financial outlay of the scheme is rupees 3,000 crore and the tenure of the scheme is from 2021 to 24-25. The financial assistance by the center is subject to a maximum limit of rupees 1,000 crore per park or 70% of the project cost of CF, 90% in case of North Indian states and hilly states, whichever is less. PLI scheme for promoting domestic manufacturing of medical devices with total financial outlay of rupees 3,420 crore and tenure from FY 2021 to FY 27-28 provides incentives to selected companies at the rate of 5% on incremental sales of medical devices manufactured in India and covered under the 4 target segments of the scheme for a period of 5 years. Under the scheme, 26 applications has been approved and 14 projects have been commissioned. Under the scheme, domestic manufacturing of high-end medical devices has started, which include linear accelerator, MRI scan, CT scan, mammogram, C-arm, MRI coils, high-end X-ray tubes. Under the major non-schematic intervention in order to attract investments in pharma sector including for APIs, the government has allowed 100% FDI in pharma sector for greenfield projects under automatic route. For the brownfield projects, up to 74% FDI investments are allowed under automatic route and beyond 74% to 100%. FDI investments are allowed under government approval route. Similarly, the government has allowed 100% FDI in medical devices sector under automatic route. Answer to question number 181 in the Lok Sabha on 5th December 2023, import of APIs from China. Under the PLI scheme, a total of 48 applications had been selected under the scheme. Out of this, 27 have already been commissioned with the installed capacity of 41,881 metric ton. List of applicants approved under PLI scheme for this scheme include Aurobindo Pharma, Karnataka Antibiotics and Pharmaceuticals, McLeod's Pharmaceuticals, Natural Biogenics, Hetero Drugs, Sudarshan Pharma, Rajasthan Antibiotics, and other companies. The scheme for promotion of bulk drug parks. The department had received proposals from 13 states. After evaluation of the proposals as per prescribed criteria, the approval to the proposal of setting up bulk drug parks in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, and Himachal Pradesh were conveyed. Regulatory measures. The drug rules 1940 was amended by GSR 1337 dated 27 October 2017, providing that drugs manufacturing license, sales license, approval or drug testing laboratory shall remain valid if licensee deposits a license in retention fee as prescribed before the expiry of a period of every succeeding 5 years from the date of its issue, unless it is suspended or cancelled by the licensing authority. The drug rules 1945 were amended by notification number GSR 1193, wherein application fees were increased for grant of import registration certificate as well as fees for overseas inspection. Lok Sabha question number 1936 dated 18 March 2025, domestic production of APIs. PLI scheme for bulk drugs has a financial outlay of Rs 6940 crore and the production tenure is from FY 22-23 to FY 28-29. The financial incentive is to be given for manufacturing of identified products. A total of 48 projects has been selected in the scheme, of which 34 projects have been commissioned for 25 bulk drugs. Against committed investment of Rs 3938 crore, investment worth Rs 4253 crore have been realized under the scheme. As on December 2024, the cumulative sales made by the applicants under the scheme is Rs 1556 crore, which includes exports worth Rs 412 crore. As per the latest notice, the last date for submission of applications was extended up to 21st July 2025. PLI scheme for pharmaceuticals with a financial outlay of Rs 15,000 crore and the production tenure from FY 22-23 to FY 27-28 provides financial incentive to 55 selected applicants for manufacturing of identified products under 3 categories for a period of 6 years. The product category 2 covers APIs, KSM, DIs except for the eligible products already covered under the PLI scheme for bulk drugs. As on December 2024, the cumulative sales made by the applicants for category 2 product is Rs 50,035 crore, which includes exports worth Rs 32,627 crore. Under the scheme for promotion of bulk drugs parks, 3 bulk drug parks have been approved for development. One is in Bharuch, Gujarat, Nakkapalli, Andhra Pradesh, and Una, Himachal Pradesh. Government of India is supporting with financial assistance to the tune of Rs 1,000 crore per park. These parks are at different stages of development. Current status of the API industry. Center for Market Research and Social Development report in their March 2023 report say policy recommendations to promote and incentivize cost-effective technologies to decrease cost of production of APIs and reduce import dependency, support for adequate infrastructure, strengthen the coal and petrochemical industry, measures to revive fermentation technology, continuous manufacturing, modern chemistry in API synthesis, academia to work on newer modern technologies, research-linked incentive scheme and financial assistance to SMEs. The Council of Scientific and Industrial Research is working with the coal and petroleum industries to generate chemicals that form main therapeutic components in various medicines in a bid to permanently address India's dependence on China for APIs. CARE Age Ratings report in their report of 4th August 2023 highlight the Indian pharmaceutical industry has demonstrated impressive growth over the years, achieving a CAGR of approximately 7% during FY 2014 to FY 23. As of FY 23, the industry's market size has soared to approximately USD 50 billion. Concurrently, the total pharma imports have also exhibited a similar CAGR of about 7%, reaching USD 8 billion during FY 23. When we delve into the specifics of pharma imports, it is evident that bulk drugs hold a significant share, accounting for approximately 55% of the total imports. The contribution of bulk drug imports from China has increased in terms of value and volume from 64% and 62% during FY 14 to 71% and 75% during FY 23 respectively. In terms of value during FY 14 to FY 23, total bulk drug imports increased at a CAGR of about 7% as against 9% from China. In FY 24, it is estimated that projects worth USD 560 million are expected to be commissioned. This is on account of the PLI scheme introduced by the government and an increase in demand for bulk drugs. They further say CareEdge Ratings believe that despite the envisaged commissioning of various projects under the PLI scheme, the dependency on the import of bulk drugs from China would remain high at about 65% going forward. Contribution of bulk drugs from China reported at all-time high during FY23 both in value and volume. This we can see from the trend in API import from China. The implications of such reliance on China for bulk drugs are far-reaching, particularly for life-saving drugs where the dependency on KSMs from China exceeds 50%. This situation raises legitimate concerns about the availability, cost, and uninterrupted supply of crucial medicines in India's healthcare landscape. It is true even bigger economies like US and China have huge amounts of imports. However, it becomes a concern for a country if the dependency is in a critical sector like pharmaceuticals. आखिर में सवाल ये है भारत कब बनेगा आत्मनिर्भर. If you find this video informative and useful, please share this with your friends and colleagues. You can write in the comment section for further clarification, feedback. I hope to get your encouragement to produce more such videos. Kindly like and share the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.